Okay, I haven't done one of these in a while. So, what I wanted to talk about is something that we all know is going on. And if you look at a lot of our quote unquote so called elite colleges, universities, there seems to be, no, not seems to be, there is a move to actually cancel, destroy knowledge. And I've got 5 grandchildren who have been to college. They're all employed. A couple of them are self-employed within their own businesses, and they're all doing quite well. And they don't seem to reflect a lot of this disavowal of knowledge that I see going on. And all I know is what I see or what I read in other places. I live in a university town, and I don't see the same things going on here. But it seems that in some cases, instructors, professors, seem to be hell bent on not teaching and mostly going into politics and so forth. And there are a lot of students that go along with that. And I think having been a student, I think part of the reason for that is it's easier. You don't have to study and you don't have to think so much if you just regurgitate what so-and-so is putting out. But teaching's hard. And I have relatives who have taught, and it's not easy. Actually, one of my grandchildren is a teacher now and a coach. And to do it right and to get the interest and the motivation and so forth is very difficult. My hat's off to people that do that and do it well. We have quite a few, though, and this is the mystery to me. At no other time in history that I'm aware of have we had so much knowledge available. I mean, not just, well, with the computer, but also the massive libraries that are available where you can go and get the physical books and read them. And I remember when I started college, I was just blown away. I had gone to small schools, public schools, and we had libraries, of course, and the town had a library, but they were smaller. And when I hit a major university, and the books that were available it was just amazing to me. And the fact that, and I was a partier too, so that you have to take that into consideration, but still, the fact that you could go in and you had so much that you could read and you could learn, and I was lucky, I guess. I had professors who I would classify as liberal in the old sense, in that they believed in debate and open discussion, and you did not have to agree with them. You couldn't get emotional and just blow stuff out. You had to back it up. I remember, and I never took a class from this guy, but I remember watching a man named Thomas Sowell, who's an economist and is quite well known and has published many works, but evidently in his youth he was a communist, and he was asked about that one time, and the man said, well, what changed your mind? Why did you move away from that? And he said, facts. So you know, you have to pay attention. Well, you don't have to, and that's the problem, is a lot of our universities and colleges and teachers don't seem to want to pay attention to facts anymore. I believe in letting everybody run off at the mouth, because if you can legitimately argue, that's good. You know, because you can go back and forth, and I love arguing, but you can go back and forth. But right now we're in a process on the internet and with social media, they're trying to destroy knowledge. And you know, there's this one thing of follow the science, but it's only follow the science if it's what you believe, or that particular person is saying follow the science because it's what they think. But scientific discovery throughout history has gone against the consensus over and over and over again and disproved the consensus. You go all the way back to Aristotle, who I'm a big fan, but he was basically our first that we know of believer in the scientific method. And he would look at stuff and move it and experiment with it, and then if it didn't work, then it wasn't, you had to move on and go and find what did work. And you do that over and over again. And people get in ruts because ruts are very comfortable. And you get a historical perspective or an archaeological perspective or, a scientific perspective. And then a guy like Einstein comes along and he goes against the consensus. And he took a lot of heat for his theory of relativity. Isaac Newton, same thing. I mean, you can just keep going down the list, but, archaeological this exploration has always fascinated me, because basically what they're doing is they find a bone or a shard or a piece of equipment or whatever, and they're basically looking at it through a telescope backwards with the small end and the big end here, and then they're trying to expand it. So it's all discovery, and it's all trying to expand off of minute pieces of knowledge and then expand from there. And that's very difficult to do. I remember I was taking a class in college on South Asia, and there's a civilization called the Indus Valley. Civilization is quite old, and the professor was talking about they had found in the dig, they had found this building that had what looked like in the middle had been a pool, and with all these small rooms around it. And they were trying to figure out the religious significance of that. And one of my friends, bit of a mouth, said, well, how do you know it wasn't a swimming pool with dressing rooms around it? And the professor was like, well, it could be, but the point is you just don't know, and you have to keep thinking and digging and looking and trying to learn what's going on. So you can't just settle on one thing. And right now we have a lot of people, and I think some of them's intent is good. They want to make the world perfect, and they want to make everything just wonderful. And we've been subject to all that before. But the world ain't perfect. It's never been perfect. It's not going to be perfect. And a lot of utopians have killed millions of people trying to make the world perfect. And if you only look at one side, if you only can believe one side and you are closed off from any other view, then it's going to lead at some point to disaster. And right now we have reached unbelievable heights through a lot of mess that we've gone through over the centuries. And it appears that some are trying to destroy that, either because they want to make everything perfect, or the ideology, and that's what it is right now, ideologically speaking, they believe in that, or it's just easier to believe that. And if you can make everybody else believe that, then everything will be wonderful, and it won't be. But anyway, the death of knowledge is not something you really want. You want the tug and the pull and the push, and you just want the constant making your mind work. One of my favorite detective stories I read about is the Hercule Poirot, and he's always talking about pushing the little gray cells. And that's what we have to do. That's why we're where we are right now today, is because there have been human beings who have pushed the gray matter and gone out. And right now we're trying to cancel some of those people because They may have been not very good people personally, but what they wrote about, what they discovered, what they made happen has been for the good of all of us. But we want to get rid of them, and we don't want to read about what they discovered or what they wrote, or the insights. Case in point, there's a wonderful writer. He was a bad human being, but he was a wonderful writer, named George Bernard Shaw, a very witty, and right now people are turning on him because he evidently, in some ways, not always, was not a very nice man. Well, that it doesn't take away from his plays. His plays, if you read them, are wonderful explorations of human nature and so forth. So you can cancel people, but you hurt yourself by doing it. Anyway, y'all have a nice day.